Hello, welcome to my channel. Today is day number 16 of the meditation, the new cycle meditations. And I have to tell you, when I first sat down to do this, I told Nigel, I was thinking about, I don't know how much I can do as far as writing today because I got a little boo-boo on my finger. I found a blister on my right middle finger yesterday while I was doing some ham radio operating or something, and I realized that it really hurt, and it was just right here where the pencil rests on my finger, and so I wasn't sure how much I would be able to write today. So I'm really surprised that I was actually able to do as much as I did, but at any rate, I'm going to just go into it, and then you can just decide for yourself if I'm just spending too much time thinking about this stuff. Sometimes I do, but at any rate, that's where I'm at. Today is March 7th, 2025. It's day number 16, and here we go. I start out by saying I'm not so sure how long I can write today. Write today. I noticed last evening that I had a blister on my finger where the pencil rests. And Nigel says, then we will not speak extensively as in the past. Just tell me when you're ready to stop. I said, okay. The bandage does help. It acts as a cushion, so I should be okay, but I will let you know. Nigel says, that is fine. So what would you like us to speak of today? I said, I have no idea. I'm about tired of focusing on what's going on in the world. Yet it feels like I have really wrung myself out with all of this. And Nigel says, so it would seem. You've been talking a lot about history in relation to what is going on in the world. I said, well, it seems to me that history is the best way to gauge what is happening. The things that I found to be quite interesting was when Ramon said that by looking at history, we can hone in on our psychic abilities. Can you elaborate on that? Nigel says, of course. When you look at history, you see it as a series of events taking place. You see the rise and falls of empires. You see what started out as a good and effective form of governance be stripped away by corruption. Think of it this way. You have a barrel full of apples. They are ripe and ready to be eaten. Staring longingly at them, you want to grab the one on top and begin eating it. Suddenly you stop, spit it out, and stare at it. Beneath this beautiful, almost perfect shell, the fruit is rotten. As you look down at the barrel of apples, you see that they are all perfect. They all look perfect. You begin to take them out of the barrel one at a time. As you lay them on the ground, you see the worms at the bottom of the barrel. The worms are the corruption that takes form within a government. The sliding of money under the table to attain levies or taxes or special favors, that is what is happening. The massive amount of corruption is like the worms destroying things from the inside out. So while you are seeing things being perfect beneath the surface, it's anything but perfect. The empire falls because it succeeds in destroying itself internally. That is history playing out. What started out as a beautiful thing has ended because people destroyed it to gain more for themselves. I said, we call it playing the system. Nigel says, indeed. That is, in essence, what is happening. The people who are given the taste of power are loving it so much that they want more and more of it. As this evil comes into light, the people revolt against it. I said, are you saying the power structure in the U.S. will ultimately fall? Nigel says, I cannot tell you this, but by the end of our time today, you will know the answer without my help. I said, I think I already know it. And Nigel says, what does history tell you, love? I said, it tells me that all the great empires eventually fall. Even in legends like Atlantis, the fall came. The Roman Empire fell. The Russian monarchy fell. The French Revolution happened. Even the American Revolution happened. Are we now in a state where the empire of America is going to fall? Nigel says, given your understanding of history, is there a single empire that has emerged victorious after such a level of rot and corruption has occurred? You see, The idea of guessing what will happen does not require a psychic or even a deck of tarot cards. What it requires is a broad understanding of history. Humanity has played this game before. You have seen people wage wars on this particular concept. The goal of Russia is to ultimately recreate the USSR. The collapse of the Berlin Wall, the eastern parts of Germany voting for Russian-supported parties. This is all a desperate attempt to recreate something that most people have rejected. Why else do you suppose the Berlin Wall fell? And I said, I wondered that. I always thought it was Reagan. Nigel says, in some instance, he catalyzed the idea that this could happen. But in reality, the people of Eastern Europe were tired of false promises, of a dictatorship that controlled them. Yet today the circle is being demonstrated both in America and abroad. I said, do you think we are going in circles? Nigel says, well, don't you? The communist system was created to force people into this notion of equality. It was countered by capitalist rugged individualism. The two would ultimately clash. After a time, it was shown that one would win out, but did it? Who are the winners and who are the losers? I said, good question. What I had growing up was believing that the West were the winners, but anymore, I'm just not sure. Nigel says the notion of the Cold War never ended. The West believed that it had won the war back in 1989, but look at what happened. That was when the whole cycle downward started. The people were being robbed by a system that did nothing for them. They were told on a daily basis that accepting assistance that should have been granted to them was akin to being lepers, that they figured that all they could do was just adjust to it. He said, don't you see, history has seen this game before. The players may be different. The concepts are all the same. You have been watching this play out. The politicians do not want to listen because if they did, then it would cost them monetarily. That is why specifically the French Revolution happened. Some are seeing this and are now afraid, but others refuse to acknowledge it. Why else do you think that they want to do away with things like education? Yeah, I said a dumbed-down populace is easier to control. I learned that when I studied Russian history. Nigel said, exactly. That is why people are depending on psychics or spiritual people. But to be a light worker does not always mean to listen to psychics, but to observe history. The notion that people can infer what will happen is pretty easy. All one has to do is look at how history played out. What happened after the French Revolution? I said a new government formed. I can only imagine that they rewrote their constitution. Many European countries have royal families, but France and Germany did away with them. Nigel said, today's royals have no power. They are merely figureheads that people look to gossip about. I said, yet, even now the U.S. is trying to recreate some sort of monarchy. Will that fail? Nigel says, what does your conscience tell you in relation to it? I said, given my understanding of history, I think it will fail miserably. But Nigel, I watch psychics. I draw comfort in knowing that they reach the same conclusions I do. Nigel says, yes, you see the parallels with history, which is verified by the words they speak to their viewers. There is truly nothing wrong in letting their wisdom guide you along. But when you said that you wanted to know if you are a psychic yourself, the energy that flows to you is psychic energy. You drew the references from your understanding of history and politics. This means that not only are you able to infer future events, but you do so by analyzing past events. This is not hocus pocus, if it is in fact how the universe works. If mankind refuses to acknowledge history's role in events, then they play out, then they will be doomed to repeat them until they learn it. The truth is, you know already what will come based on history. But there will be those who will attempt to silence you because your speaking of history directly contradicts what they are attempting to do. They believe that as long as they try to silence the people, that the events that play out will have a different outcome. This is why there is this thing called censorship. If they keep people out of the know about their corruption and keep people divided, then they will prolong their basis of power. What they do not realize is that the universe will continue to speak to people. It will continue to say that things do not have to be this way. There is another choice that can be made. They are, at this moment, starting to realize this. But those in power will not go quietly. They will continue to use every last option at their discretion to prevent this from happening. And I said, you make me think of one of the psychics who said the White House would ultimately fall. She even said that it would be pretty dramatic. Is her imagery of this real, or is it sort of a what-if situation? Nigel said, oh, she was right about it. Things are reaching a tipping point. It coincides with the dreams you had and the card reader and what the card readers are speaking of. This is not anything surprising here. A lot of energy readers are seeing such events play out, perhaps in different ways, but this is happening. Someone said that the events are a sort of fast forward, again, an accurate summation. The world is changing quickly, and people are seeing that the status quo is no longer working. I said, people are tired of being screwed by politicians who have no sense of personal responsibility. They are sick of people passing the buck. And Nigel says, yes, that is becoming a uniting force within society. People are seeing that they are not alone. The effects of their realizing the impact of all of this is monumental. Those in power cannot put the genie back inside the bottle. I said, I don't think they want to. And Nigel says, the people? I said, yeah. They know that knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're able you are at affecting the world in a positive way. Nigel says, so back to the initial question, do you think that the U.S. empire will fall? I said, yes, as sad as it seems right now, I think it will. I think that the Ukraine is going to win the war. And Nigel says, why do you think that? I said, because I think that if the U.S. empire falls, the Russian empire will as well. They are both behaving in the same way. So if Einstein's quote is correct about insanity doing something more than once, but expecting a different result, then that means that both of these countries will make the same choices, and that are both bound to fail. The support of Canada, the EU, Australia, the UK, and others will galvanize things. Nigel says, then you have a sense of not only that, but what will happen in Asia as well. I said, yes, China will have to see that as the US and Russia fall into chaos, that attacking Taiwan will prove futile. I hope to God that summation will prove accurate. Nigel said, have faith. I said, I'm trying, but I really do not trust my predictions as much as I should. I trust you and my guides, but I don't always trust myself. And Nigel says, yet you are making predictions based on history. Just trust yourself and your instincts, love. And I said, thank you, Nigel. This has been wonderfully insightful. I appreciate talking to you. I appreciate you talking to me. And Nigel says, anytime, love, anytime. So that's where I stopped. The entire scope of history. I didn't think I was going to go into a big discussion about history, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there is a lot of historical stuff that happened that we should look at in when we're looking at what's going on in the world today. We should probably be looking at history as well to see what happened 500, 600, 700, 800 years ago. These empires did fall. We hear stories about the legend of Atlantis and how it fell, and how the Roman Empire fell, and how Russian monarchy fell, and how the American Revolution happened, and the control that the British Crown had on the U.S. ended. The U.S. became a democratic republic. And I think that that a lot of, when you look at Europe and you see that there's all these countries, they have these royal families and stuff. These royal families have zero power. They cannot initiate law in their countries. They are figureheads. They are just there for us to gossip about, or for taxpayers to pay money into. But these royal families do not have this finite power that the president in the US wants for himself. He wants his family to become the new royal family. He wants the US to become a royal institution, per se. But the reality is, it's not going to happen. It's not going to come about because Europe has already seen that. And all you have to do is look at the history of Europe, and then you can see that the notion of creating a monarchy somewhere else just isn't going to happen. So I use a lot of history in my conclusions, and my guides seem to be telling me that if I look more at history and less at psychic predictions, that I could see that history will tell me what I need to know with regards to what's going to happen. But I have to admit, I still enjoy watching the psychics and hearing what they have to say, because I think that there is some comfort there in their readings and in their predictions. And quite frankly, a lot of their predictions do coincide with history. They may not realize it, but it's true. Their readings are coinciding exactly along the same parallels as history. So it is something to think about. I don't know if anybody else has ever actually made that inference when it comes to predicting the future, but I think that history is a really great place to look at in relation to what is coming about in the world. So it's just something to think about. I hope that you enjoyed this. I think it was very interesting. I think it's very fascinating to go in deeper into that and to see that. Tomorrow I'll be talking to Sunshine, so there might be a little bit of levity to the conversation. So we'll just have to wait and see. But with Nigel, it's the balance. With Ramon, it's the logic, and I think I got quite a bit of balance and logic going on in the last couple of days. So here we are. So I wish you a wonderful day. I hope that you enjoy whatever it is you're setting out to do. We have sunshine and blue skies today, and that's kind of nice. So I'm going to try to enjoy that. So take care. Have a great day. And as always, namaste.